Welcome back to another episode of the Paul Watson Project. I'm your host, Walker Bruns. I'm excited to be here. Can you believe it? Week 2 is already behind us, and week 3, it's coming up fast. Now, when I think about week 3 in fantasy football, I like to think of the word consistency. You're going to start to see trends in your team, the ups, the downs. Is your team have a low floor, a high ceiling? What is your team? You really start to find out what it is after week 3. We've got an exciting show for you. I've got a special guest, our commissioner, Nick Lane, going to help me break down each of the matchups this week. Before we go any further, let's do our Quick Hits segment. Over to you, Jake.
This is Quick Hits.
Thank you, Walker, for that kind introduction. I'll be your host for this segment of Quick Hits. Our quick hit number 1 of the day is the blowout of the week, coming from none other than David Smith. Say my name with 127.56 points against Roger Goodell. Nick Lane with 74.36 points, a difference of a whopping 53.2 points. I love it. David Smith pulling it off big. I love it even more. Roger Goodell staying unrelevant. Our quick hit number 2 of the day, the closest margin of defeat or victory, however you want to see it, coming from Walker Bruns Acid Playground with 109.1 points against newly named Prison Mike Zach Lane with 107.72 points, a difference of 1.58 points. Sorry, Zach Lane. I wish Justin Jefferson had pulled it through. I wish Dalvin Cook had pulled it through. We wouldn't be sitting in this position right now, but unfortunately, we are. Our number 3 quick hit is best move of the week, coming from Zach Tinsley, right next to me in the car. Wish I could have stopped him, but I couldn't. With 20 minutes left to decide before the 1 p.m. games, Zach Tinsley decided to take out Gabe Davis and roll the dice with Christian Kirk. It paid off big time. 2 touchdowns, 20-something points. I don't know. Scored a bunch. He won. Good job, Zach. The Come On Man of the week. Come on, man. Worst trade of the week. Possibly of the year. Coming from 2 in the brown, 1 in the zinc. Giving Roger Goodell Mark Andrews for J. Rob. Will it pay off? I don't know. But come on, man. Seriously? I'd like to end with the week 2 top players of the week. Lamar Jackson with 42.62 points. Tua Tagovailoa sitting on the waiver wire with 40.86 points. And Stephon Diggs pulling it big for Travis Stouffer with 38.8 points. Good job, Rob. Good job, Travis. Putting Lamar Jackson, sorry Jake Bozier, but Lamar Jackson as the number 1 fantasy football player so far for the year with 63.84 points, just in front of Josh Allen with yours truly with 63.16 points. Fellas, it's been a great week. Keep it up. Looking forward to next week. And this has been the first segment of Quick Hits.
This is Quick Hits.
All right, awesome job there, Jake. Really enjoyed those quick hits. I look forward to more quick hits in the future. Before we go any further, let's send it over to our chief analyst, Travis Stouffer, for a breakdown of the power rankings for this week's matchups.
And welcome back to our Week 3 matchup power rankings, where we count down the hottest matchups of the week. Diving right in, we'll start out with number 6 this week. 2 in the brown, 1 in the Zeke, verse Say My Name. 8 versus 9 in the standings. Bozier versus David. Both teams at 1-1. Both teams here have made some questionable trades. Both teams here have made some questionable lineup decisions. A lot of questions. And here at the Paul Watson Project, it's left us all questioning, do these teams even matter? Does this matchup matter? Well, the answer to that is, for at least one more week, somebody here matters, because whoever wins this is moving into the playoff projections. Number 5, Kyler I Barely Know Her versus Connor and Sound. 6 versus 5, Alex versus Jake. The big story here from Yahoo is, can Jake Bellwood go undefeated? The answer, no. Both of these teams trying to recover from just Monday night heartbreakers. The winner here will be likely be settling in for a position in the top 4 in the league, while the loser falls out of the current playoff projections. And moving on to number 4, Eckler I Barely Know Her versus Oh Fill My Cup. 4 versus 3, Austin versus Rob. Later on in the season, a 4 versus 3 matchup would likely be higher on this list, but it is early. Two teams in this one that look like they're built for the long haul, trying to get an early edge, trying to get that winning record, get above 500. That feels good. The winner looking to move into the top 2 in the league in this young season. Moving on to number 3 this week in our power rankings, Ryan's team versus Cool Running. Ryan's team's kind of on the brink here. 0-2 so far. Zach 1-1 by the skin of his teeth. But coming back from 0-3 in fantasy football, it's almost unheard of. Ryan needs this one in a bad way. But does he want it more than Zach Tinsley? Number 2, Acid Playground versus Cam $47 Acres. 1 versus 2 in the standings. Walker versus Travis. As noted earlier, it's early in the year. If this is week 10, this is probably the number 1 matchup. These two squads are full of stars, full of big names. Can they remain healthy? That remains to be seen. Can they continue to perform at a high level? This remains to be seen. 2 fierce competitors in this one. Number 1, Prison Mike versus Roger Goodell. 11 versus 12. Zach Lane versus Nick Lane. The Lane Bowl. As stated earlier, trying to come back from down 0-3 in fantasy football is nearly unheard of. But these teams aren't dead. There's names all over the place here. Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor. Now Mark Andrews is in the mix here. There's a lot going on here. These teams are not dead. They have talent. But no wins is no wins, and 0-2 is 0-2. The loser here is going to have a small mountain to climb, while the winner slowly starts to slide up and show the league what they're really made of here in week 3. And that wraps up our week 3 matchup power rankings. Back to you, Walker.
Great work there, Travis. I guess we don't pay you the big bucks for nothing. Looking forward to another exciting week in the Paul Watson Project. Without any further ado, we're going to do a breakdown of this week's games. I know it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Please join me in welcoming our commissioner, Nick Lane.
All right, we got with us today our commissioner, Nick Lane, our special guest. It's good to see you. Glad to have you on the show. Thoughts on the league so far?
It's been a wild year. It's always for me a little tough when I'm not even competing. My team has been pretty miserable, but I tried to make some moves this past week to hopefully improve my chances moving forward, and we'll see if we can get back into it. But overall, the league's been super competitive. It's always what we try and target. It's trying to have as many guys competitive as possible, and I don't think it'll be any different this year.
All right, I agree with that sentiment. That's what makes this the best league that there is out there. Let's jump into our first matchup. 2 in the Brown, 1 in the Zeke. Jake Bozier's team versus Say My Name, David Smith. What are your thoughts on this matchup here?
I think we have a lot of really close matchups this week. I think this one is definitely one to keep an eye on. 2 really close match teams. I think Bozier made some moves this week to try and shore up his weakest position, which was running back. He used his position of strength, which is tight end. He had Higbee sitting on his bench. He's able to leverage an asset, try and make his overall score look a little bit better. So I think hopefully he continues to get more consistent play out of his roster moving forward. I think David's secret this week is, does he get another big game out of Tyreek? And if he can't, where is he at with Keenan Allen this week? So I think that's really going to be 2 things to watch out for David.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you read my notes over here. I'm looking at Bozier's team heavily relies on the quarterback. Tried to upgrade his team with the running back, like you mentioned. Now we get to see WKU alum Tyler Higbee. He's going to need a big week from him and some consistency here on out from that position, trading away Mark Andrews. Then David's team, he's been piecing together a team. He's trying to make it deeper. Had a little bit of a rough draft, but he was still able to win without Keenan Allen last week. Will the Dolphins' offense continue to be just crazy good like they were last week? I don't know. That's what we'll see. But let's go ahead and move on and look at the number 5 matchup here. Kyler, I barely know her. Alex Day's team versus Connor and Sound, Jake Bellwood's team. Give me your thoughts.
I think the biggest thing to keep an eye on is what's Jake actually going to do with that lineup. Is he actually going to roll with the bench players to start? Is he accidentally going to leave him in there like he's toying with us and then forget to set his lineup on a Thursday or something and get stuck with
makes
the
an
players?
accident.
So we'll see what happens there. But, Jake, continues to have a really strong team. I think he's somebody to continue to keep an eye on. Yeah, you may pick up a couple L's here and there, but again, I think he has a very strong team. And hopefully he doesn't forget to reset his lineup. I think that's his key this week. And, Alex, has some really great wide receiver play, but he has no consistency at running back. So can both show up in 1 week, and I think that's his key to win if he's going to stay competitive in this league.
Similar thoughts here. I look at Alex's team. It's a team that keeps outshining projections. Like Yahoo does not understand this team. It just continues to outshine. It's a team that needs another big performance, and it needs a big performance from somebody. But every time I look at this roster, I just don't know who that somebody is that he can look to and say, this is going to be the guy this week.
In 2 or 3 years, we may look at that back at that roster and think, man, that is a crazy fantasy football team. But a lot of these guys, like Travis mentioned, are still young. And I'm still kind of waiting for one of those two running backs just to have a breakout performance. I think that may just set them up to move forward. But if we don't get it, then that's the risk Alex took with going too young on his running backs.
Yep, it's a risk, but it could pay big dividends.
Good, yeah.
Looking at Jake's team, a tough loss, but he put up a lot of points. So I actually think this team's going to come actually back down this week in its points. But I look for Dalvin Cook. Has not had a great year so far. I think he has a big week this week. Let's go ahead and move on to the number 4 matchup. Eckler, I hardly even know her, which is Austin's team versus Fill My Cup, Rob's team. Give me the breakdown.
All right, we got 3 versus 4. This is an interesting week. Most everyone is competing against their closest person in the standings. So again, another really close matchup. I think Austin's has gotten a lot of really good play out of Carson Wentz so far. Does he continue to get that? I think that's really kind of the key for where he's continued to excel. The one thing with Rob is he's been pretty big play dependent between Cooper and Lamar. So if that continues to keep up, which very well could, I mean, look at the years both of those guys have had in this league. I think, definitely can happen, but that's I think Rob's kind of in a boom or bust position with his roster at the moment.
Austin's team, on paper, this really is my favorite team. I say it every week, but on paper, I just love this team. The Sun God, Eckler, Kelsey, they've all been solid. I look for McLaurin to kind of start doing well as well and start producing again this week. As far as for Rob's team, had a huge breakout from his rookie wide receiver Drake London last week, but he had him on his bench. Didn't cost him a victory or a loss, and it's lucky it didn't cost him. But this team could be good enough despite the managerial decisions. Maybe he can fix that problem. It's fixable, but he's got to have to play his best players week in, week out if you're going to win in this league. Let's move on to Zach Tinsley, who is Cool Runnings, versus Ryan, who is his own team here.
Yeah, I think the biggest question for this week in this matchup is, one, will Ryan remember to take Mike Evans out of his lineup since he got the 1-game suspension? He's still sitting there right now. And the other big thing to keep an eye on is, if George Kittle is going to be healthy, does Ryan remember to take him off of his bench? I think if Ryan does those two things and he can get some solid wide receiver play from his depth, he should be in a good position. But, man, Zach's team is still really strong. He should get Gabe back this week. Gabe Davis, really strong performance in week 1. If he's even 80-90% of that again this next week, I think he's in a really good position. And, man, Christian Kirk has been, when you look at it, super solid through the first 2 weeks. That's a pick that I would have stayed way far away from. I know Zach wasn't exactly thrilled with it when he got him, but, Christian Kirk is living up to, 1, the draft, and then 2, that deal he got in Jacksonville that we all thought was crazy money. So, no, it's turning out to be pretty good for what we thought was a position of strength or position of weakness for Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. He got that huge win last week. I see his team as being really boom or bust, kind of how you mentioned Rob's team being. That's the way I see his team panning out. Not sure if the consistency is there, but if it is, if he booms more than he busts, he's got a good squad. And then you look at Ryan's team, it's going to be a tough week. I mean, you already mentioned a lot of the troubles. You didn't even mention Justin Herbert, who broke his rib, one of the highlights of his team. This might just be a bad week to have to play fantasy football and be a manager because he's got a lot of things to look out for. So, Ryan, if you're listening to this, make sure you're being vigilant this week and try and go get that win. All right, let's move on to the number 2 matchup, which is Cam $47 Acres, which is Travis's team versus myself, which is Acid Playground.
So we got the matchup of the undefeateds here. 2 guys that have performed really well throughout the history of this league. Always tend to make really good decisions when it comes to their roster. So to me, and I look down these 2 rosters, I mean, you guys have some solid teams. Looking at that, I'm like, man, this is going to be tough to call back out of my personal hole. I got to crawl out of when you guys have rosters like that. But in this matchup, I think it's going to come down to the flex play. There's a lot of strong players, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, RB1, RB2. So, some decent tight end play for both parties, but I think this is going to come down to who outperforms in the flex position. Probably the tight end is included within that too, but I think that's where you're going to have to win the matchup this week.
I mean, I like the platitudes, but they don't mean much to me because all that matters is the championships, and that's what you got. It doesn't matter if I can build the roster or not. Got to get some more of those. Hopefully this year's the year for me, but we'll find out here as I'm going up against a strong team, which is Travis's team. He had the highest scoring non-quarterback, Stefan Diggs, just a huge monster game. Are there enough players outside of him? I think Swift's going to have another big game this week as well. Looking at my own team, last week, really no breakouts. It was just a solid game at every position. Didn't really have a good week, but if you can win on your down weeks and still be consistent, get enough points from players across the board, I like that in a team. So
no, that's seriously been what I always try and shoot for is a super, in my strong guys, super, super high floors. And I think you have a team that, so far, obviously there's questions about longevity with a couple of your guys. But, man, if they are continuing to perform and they don't get hurt this year, I think you have exactly that, which, to me, when I look at it, looks hard to beat.
Well, again, the platitudes mean nothing. We'll see if my team can win. Let's move on to the last matchup, the biggest matchup of the week, the Lane Bowl, as our analyst has called this one. Roger Goodell, yourself, versus Prison Mike, Zach Lane. Give us the rundown on this rivalry brother matchup.
For such a big matchup, I didn't even realize I was playing them this week until I started doing my research like 3 hours ago for this video. But it's always a fun week when I get to play Zach. We have some good trash talk back and forth. It'll continue to be can my team actually play consistently? I've had some good performances out of my guys, but I get too many down weeks out of guys, and then the next week those guys are down and the other guys are up. So if I can actually get a solid performance out of my team, just 80% of hitting projections, I would be thrilled this week. Just to start something to build back off of. Obviously, I took a swing with Mark Andrews. Hopefully that'll continue to pay off. But again, you never know. We've seen trades go down like this where people feel like it's super one-sided, and it doesn't end up that way at all. Andrews could get hurt this next week, or Lamar could get hurt, and Andrews' value is way down. So we'll continue to see how it goes, but hopefully, that'll pan out for the better for me, and I think for Zach, as long as he continues to get consistent performance out of his guys, because he has guys who can put up points really, really quickly, he's in a strong spot too. We all talked about him being the favorite coming into the season. He hasn't had the strongest start, but at the same time, you can still make a big comeback, and we've had that happen in this league in the first few weeks easily. I think Zach Tinsley last year was 0-2 and then ended up winning the league, finishing 10-3. So you're not out till you're out.
I feel like you were kind of in scramble mode based on the first couple of weeks, but you did make a huge trade. I think Mark Andrews does improve your team quite a bit, but Russ has been bad. Jonathan Taylor's not been amazing. Juju's been kind of unimpressive. Some guys need to get going on your team. You got to get some guys going.
Juju has been noticeably disappointing for me because he was my big swing sleeper this year. I know a few guys had him on their list for that, but I thought he was going to be the guy like the year I drafted Keenan Allen pretty high, that everyone thought I overpaid for Keenan Allen. I thought I was getting something with Juju here, but it hasn't paid off so far, but hopefully we start to get it together.
Yeah, he's got to have to start doing something. Mark Andrews is going to help your team, but you need some other pieces going here. And then Zach Lane's team. Yeah, Zach Lane's team, Jalen Hurts, if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, this team is just tough to beat. It's really good top to bottom. I don't really care that he's 0-2. He's got a deep squad and a good squad. But
Yep.
hey, Nick, I appreciate you breaking these games down with me. We're going to actually invite on our chief analyst, Travis Stouffer, to bring, and we're going to do our picks here. So we'll
All
be
right.
right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. We've had a good breakdown. Now let's get into our picks for the week, starting off with the number 6 matchup, 2 in the Brown, 1 in the Zeke, which is Bozier's team versus Say My Name. David Smith, Yahoo has got Bozier as the winner in this one. Travis, who do you got?
Bozier shuts up the haters this week. He gets to say he won this trade for at least 1 week.
I gotta agree with Travis. I think Bozier wins this, and with Yahoo too. I think Bozier pulls this one out and shuts up the haters this week, namely Travis.
Well, it looks like a clean sweep on the panel here. I've got Bozier as well. Let's move on to the number 5 matchup. Kyler, I Barely Know Her, Alex Day's team versus Connor and Sound, Jake Bellwood. If we do the projections as they should be, Yahoo has a win here for Jake Bellwood's team, pending him actually putting in the players that should start. Travis, who do you got?
Pending. Connor and Sound, I think they tread water here. They're beat up, but I think they tread water and eke one out.
Yeah, no, same thing here. I think Jake wins this matchup this week.
Well, it looks like we're all on the same page here. I've got Jake as well. Let's move on here to another matchup of the Barely Know Her. We've got Eckler, I Hardly Know Her, Austin's team versus Oh Fill My Cup, Rob's team. Yahoo here has got Austin as the victor. Travis, who do you got?
In Henry and Cup we trust. I'm taking Rob in an absolute rout.
Ooh, I disagree. I think this is a strong week for Austin. I think he's going to pull this one out.
Yeah, likewise to Yahoo and to Nick. I think Austin continues the winning train here and gets the win. Ekes it out, but gets the win. Moving into the top 3 matchups here. This is what everybody wants to know. Who do you got between Cool Runnings, Zach Tinsley's team, and Ryan's team? Yahoo's got it as Zach Tinsley's team. Travis, what do you got?
Ryan's team is just too banged up. Tinsley takes this one pretty easy.
Yeah, I think there's too many holes this week for Ryan, so I think Zach wins this one.
Yep, it's just a tough week to be Ryan, especially in fantasy football. That kind of came out wrong, but hey, it's a joke, so we roll with it. I'm rolling with Zach Tinsley. I really didn't mean it that way, Ryan. Sorry about that. But we're going to move on here to Cam $47 Acres, Travis's team versus Acid Playground. Myself, we got a matchup of the panel here. Yahoo's got it as Acid Playground is the winner. Travis, do you believe in your own team this week?
I'm a little bit worried about the GOAT. I have not gotten good quarterback play either of the first 2 weeks here. Is it too early to start talking playoff bye week for Acid Playground?
Yeah, I think, as I said in my analysis, this one comes down to the flex play, and I think Walker's has the stronger position there, so I think Walker wins this one.
Interesting. I've got Travis in this one. It's going to be a close matchup, but Travis has the team that's going to pull it out if he starts his $47 player. Moving on to the final pick, the Lane Bowl. We've got Roger Goodell, Nick Lane versus brother Prison Mike, Zach Lane. Yahoo has it as a close one, but Zach Lane pulls it out. Travis, let's go to you.
All due respect, Kamish, I think you get absolutely lit up this week. Overpowered. I think the Colts are going to try and figure out what to do. But if they don't get it figured out, I think you're in big trouble here. Your brother is going to take family supremacy. He's going to gain that, and he's going to gain respect amongst his peers.
I disagree. I think I pull it out this week. I think my team finally shows up. I've gotten good weeks out of just about everyone on my roster. So I think I finally get a consistent week this week and I win.
Well, I think you've got high hopes there. I'm not sure I'm on train with you. I'm going with Prison Mike, Zach Lane's team. That wraps up our picks. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Hope you have a good week here.
Well, that wraps up our show. A really big thank you to each of the guests that were on today. We're ready for week 3. I hope you are as well. Hope you get some wins this week.
This is the Paul Watson Project.
It's fine. And I'm fine. My team's fine. I still have Josh Allen. I think I'm going to be okay. Right? Oh, no.